means you've hit the peak of inflated expectations. We also see this in the marketplace. Famous technologist and technology investor, fairly evil guy, Peter Thiel, just pulled a bunch of his stock portfolio out of AI stocks. He disinvested from AI, and this made news. So even within Silicon Valley circles, we're starting to see signals that there may be doubt about AI. So what happens? It's the roller coaster. We went all the way to the top, and now we go almost all the way to the bottom. And at the bottom, and this is my favorite part, we hit the trough of disillusionment. I don't think we're there yet. I think we may be there in a year, just depending on how things go. And what you'll notice is that the trough of disillusionment, we hit this with crypto and blockchain a while ago, I think. There's a moment where people just say, I don't want to talk about it. But the point is, according to Gartner, who serve very wealthy clients, most technologies then start another more modest upward climb where people start to reconsider the technology and figure out what it's actually good for. And you hit sort of a new equilibrium where AI becomes just sort of a permanent part of our ecosystem, a permanent part of the way we think about our work. This certainly happened with the internet or with cell phones, any number of technologies that you could name. Now, I've said I don't like Gartner very much and that there are limitations to this chart. Not every technology goes all the way up. Not every technology, once it falls, comes back up. Some, I think, blockchain, personally, for me, I'm still in the trough of disillusionment, never to return. That's a new one. But I think this is a useful tool. So while we get the slides back up, what I want to say is, you remember I talked about global governance, local or regional governance, and elections administration. This is a really good tool to use to think about how you position your work and how you inform the regulatory discussions in your countries and in your region. What you don't want to do is operate at the peak of inflated expectations, which is to say AI matters more than anything else, and the robots are going to murder us all, or the supercomputer to rule the future is on its way. That's not a sensible place to regulate from or to invest your limited budgets towards. But also, as we start this downward cycle, the regulatory discussion still matters. You don't regulate something that doesn't matter to the world. You only regulate something that does matter, and you should regulate it appropriately to the long-term picture. So the regulatory considerations that Samson mentioned, the specific initiatives that are underway, I'll speak to a couple of others, including in Africa and in different regions of Africa, including, of course, in Europe. All of these need to regulate towards our best guess about where that plateau of productivity or of risk is, a realist picture. Okay, so on our next slide, so this is the big slide. I'm going to spend a moment on this, and maybe keep me honest if I run long, please. You have to channel Elephanta and just eyes in the back of my head. So I put this together. This is not scientific. This rolls up a number of different research initiatives that IFAS is undertaking, that IDEA has undertaken, that I've seen in our work globally. And so this is highly unscientific, and I assume it will be outdated before I finish this chart, or before I finish this speech. Let me just read to you the columns across the top. First is category. You've heard various different versions of these categories of AI so far today. We started with the chairman gave us his list of 7 or 8 categories of AI opportunities at the beginning. They're pretty closely aligned. My friend Samson just gave us another similar but different list. We could make others. This is just mine. Next is my rough estimate globally, and I checked with Samson from his work. This, I think, aligns pretty well with Africa, of EMB adoption across these categories. And then the next 3 are the ones that really matter. 1, opportunity. Where do we see that there may be opportunity, or it's worth placing some bets to explore potential opportunities for EMBs to realize gains in trust, in voter participation, in civil society engagement, in the integrity of the vote, in lowering the cost of the vote, all of those sorts of opportunities. And you can see largely it's sort of moderate or high. Next is the complementary one, and these are not covariant, meaning you can have high and high, or you can have low and high with opportunity and risk. Risk We've already talked a lot about this. Professor Berger brought up some of these questions for risk assessments. Several factors Samson just brought up would also factor in, and it will be different for every EMB, for every region, and for every election, even for each EMB. But these are a general sense at a global level of where the risks are. Honestly, I think I would bump all of these if I were to revise these. All the lows become mediums, the mediums become highs, and the highs become extreme, maybe. But you can see weighing opportunity against risk. And then the final category I wanted to mention, because I think it may matter most of all, and this relates to the question of hype and the trough of disillusionment. Two things. One we're very familiar with, hype or snake oil. The question is, will the AI do what they say it will do? And the second question, which I haven't heard used very much yet, but I assume it will become a popular term very soon, AI washing. You've all encountered this. The vendor that you work with, be it Microsoft or a small vendor, be it an election technology vendor or someone, your telephone company, all of a sudden they say, now with AI. And you say, oh, really? And you start scrolling through your phone or through your computer and the AI is not evident. So there's so much hype right now that everyone is scrambling to either add AI to their service, to their product, or they're willing to put a sticker on the outside of the box that says, now with AI, and charge you twice as much. So either false claims about AI, or, to Samson's point on one of his slides, is it even really AI at all? So this is the third factor here. There's opportunity, risk, and then how likely is it that you're being tricked if you're interacting with a vendor, right? So I'm not going to run through all of these in detail just due to time constraints, but a few key points I wanted to raise. First of all, there's a missing row here. I broadly would have included it under workflow efficiency, but I think data analytics is missing here. I think that's a very high opportunity, relatively low risk opportunity area with a very high degree of snake oil and AI washing. So high opportunity, low risk, so that's good, but a lot of false claims being made about what's possible. So a couple of key things I wanted to point out. First, communication, voter education is clearly an opportunity area, and it's a place where EMBs have been comfortable in moving forward relatively quickly because it most resembles a lot of what you all do already. The question isn't, should we be engaging online? Should we be putting out public communications? The question is, will these new tools help us do it faster? Will it help us be more multimedia, put more images on more tweets that we want to put out? So there's a relatively high degree of opportunity there, but I want to caution that there is a fair amount of snake oil that's being sold. And specifically, we've talked about bias a lot, but the question of whether adding AI to your workflow actually lowers costs, and does it actually increase engagement, and is it truly accurate information? So one to highlight simply because so many social media, so many EMBs are engaging in that area. Secondly, social media monitoring and sentiment analysis. I know IEBC in Kenya is experimenting with this to understand voter sentiment, especially amongst the youth. So a very important question continent-wide. We have two difficulties here. One that's already been mentioned, the social media companies have essentially disabled access to their data, which means the vendors of these technologies are put in a position of making grand claims about their capabilities in a context where their work has gotten much more difficult, which should set off alarm bells for everyone. And so that's where you get that high snake oil or high AI washing question. And there's also a moderate level of risk for the same reason in applying AI, because you can have very confidently stated results, for example, around sentiment or around hate speech, which are simply false, and particularly which are not localized to the local context, local community needs, local social norms. Two others, just in the interest of time, that I want to go through. One, if you see on the third row, partnership with companies. So we've talked a little bit about that. It certainly was a topic here last year. The companies in general, especially the big American ones, are bending a knee a little bit to our great President Trump, and they're stepping back from some of their human rights commitments and engagements. So this has become more difficult. And many of the companies that we are concerned with in the AI space, OpenAI among them, are new. And so they've never built these human rights capabilities to begin with. So they're coming of age as a company in an environment which is not as human rights respecting as Facebook, if I can say something a little bit controversial. But rapidly, users are moving from using traditional search to find information to using integrated AI chatbots or AI tools. This is a big, big problem for voter education, and this is a call to action. We have to find ways as a global elections community to demand partnership from those companies that our users or our voters are all moving to, because that's where everyone under a certain age is asking, when is election day, what documents do I need, how do I register to vote? And the information that those products are surfacing is not always accurate right now. So it's a huge unmet need, and the companies are not stepping forward to ask for our help in meeting that need. And then finally, just one other that I'll highlight. Well, I'll highlight two just in passing. First, content provenance and content labeling. I will not go into it just in the interest of time. This is a huge opportunity area. I just wanted to sort of raise it here. The idea of media, EMBs, and others being able to mark their photos, mark their statements as official in a cryptographic way that can't be faked. There's huge efforts amongst the tech industry to build these standards now, and it's an opportunity area for us. Two, we talked about biometrics. There's a very important emerging conversation about DPI. For those in the room who don't know that acronym and understand how it relates to your work, maybe it's a topic for another conference next year or beyond, but this is very important and relates to privacy as well. And then finally, the very last row here, accessibility. I wanted to end on a high note. Accessibility is a place where we are seeing huge strides made in helping meet the needs of people who are blind, people who have mobility issues, people who have cognitive issues where they process information in different ways. And this is a place where things that were very difficult before or required physical measures like tactile ballot overlays or helping visually impaired users navigate to a polling place, these are suddenly becoming much lower cost and much easier, and there's a lot of very fast innovation happening that has minimal human rights implications. So the low that I put here under snake oil and risk is not zero. You should still have your wits about you. This is still very important, but I think there are some very real gains to be made here, and ones that are not only ethically righteous, but that are ones that EMBs can brag on and help build rapport with the community for the good work that you do. So this will be circulated. Again, it's not scientific, but I just wanted to provide a cheat sheet based off of what IFAS is seeing. Next up, on the next slide. Okay, on this slide, this is, I think, my second to last. I highlighted two of those rows from the last table as special opportunity areas. I wanted to return to this point that these are opportunities not only for your operations or for budgetary investment, but for regulation. The places where there was a high degree of risk and a high degree of opportunity, that means regulation. If there's a lot of snake oil and a high degree of opportunity, that means regulation. So I think workflow efficiency, making sure that there's not snake oil being sold, accessibility and communications, these are important areas. And then I've mentioned rapid response here in partnership with civil society. I think that to this point about sort of adapt versus adopt, civil society is your friend in adapting. So we need new modes in the context of AI, of sort of adversarial parties using AI to create new threats for elections. Civil society is your buffer in the absence of a much expanded budget, which may not arrive. Finally, I want to make the connection back to kind of this question of what do we do about, I've used the word governance here, but regulation as well. Two related calls to the ones that Samson mentioned. The first is it's happening in the room right now. Around AI, we need regional strategies for governance and resilience that meet regional needs. For those who either yourselves or members of your organizations participated in the Siren launch event a couple of weeks ago, thank you. for your partnership. That's an example of the sort of strategy I mean, more focused on cybersecurity in that case. I think a similar model is needed around AI, and I would say information space more broadly, and privacy. And then finally, and I've used this term vertical integration, we have another initiative that I'll tell you about in a second very quickly, where we think that the global governance discussions, which are mainly centered in sort of UN or similar circles, or technology circles like the W3C, or in Europe right now with the regulatory efforts that are happening there, there's a real lack of local voices, particularly on elections, either from EMBs or from civil society, to directly inform those global discussions about what the future of the technology and the technology marketplace should be. Similarly, I think this group honestly is the most sophisticated one that I've interacted with globally on these issues. In general, the global elections administration community is very unaware of what's happening in those global governance discussions. There's just a very big disconnect. So we need a feedback loop between the two and to integrate from the global to the local level on governance and, of course, on administration itself. So these are all urgent areas. I think every speaker has touched on different facets of these, but I wanted to sort of present them together. Very quickly, and then we'll return to our question of an AI lab. Next slide. I would get in trouble with my boss if I didn't quickly tell you about all the great work that IFAS is doing in these areas. I just wanted to quickly invite all of you individually through your organizations or SADC, if you so choose, to engage on these. Siren, we've just, as you're aware, established a partnership with ECF-SADC on our Cyber Information Resilient Elections Network. That just launched in Lusaka about 3 weeks ago. So we're very excited to carry that work forward. The second one that I just mentioned is our AI advisory group on elections. Samson, Marjan, thank you for participating to be advisors on that. Here we've brought together global elections experts from within 5 different EMBs representing the world, and technology experts who are engaged on those global technology issues, but may not be experts in elections. And we put them in dialogue to generate another complementary sort of framework or set of practical strategies that EMBs can use in thinking about their interactions with AI. So the report from that will be forthcoming in the very near future, the next couple of months. I mentioned rapid response. I won't spend any more time on that, but if you're interested in the question of rapid response to information space threats, including AI, please just find me sometime during the week and I can tell you about the Election Integrity Task Force. Our first engagement was in the recent elections in Cote d'Ivoire. And then last and not least, we have 2 research efforts that are culminating. One is a global study on how political parties and candidates are using AI in their campaigning to provide a taxonomy. So I'll be excited to share that with this group at some point. And then we're also, a few people have mentioned this theme, but how should EMBs be thinking about free expression, and particularly free expression and AI in elections, to ensure that as we regulate, we don't foreclose the discourse and the fierce debate that we sometimes require in our democratic spaces. So with that, I want to take you to our last slide. This is just for fun. Generated with AI, full disclosure. So the question was, if we live in an AI lab, are we the scientists or are we the mice? I think we had another example. Are we the antelope or are we the, or was it a gazelle or the lion? But I think that we're at a moment where the the elections community, needs to decide to take a proactive stance. And I think regulation is really the central point in this, rather than budgetary concerns or election cycle by election cycle concerns, to ensure that we're playing with the technology. I think someone over here, forgive me, I didn't catch the organizational affiliation, made this point. We don't need to go on the defense. We want to be playing with the technology. We want to be the scientists, the experimenters, seeing what it's good for, what can happen with this technology, because otherwise it's the AI companies and the bad actors who are experimenting on us. So let's not be the mice. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. You know, as we wind up the session, and we will have a question and answer session before we conclude. It may be important for us to now tie up the conversation on the regulatory frameworks and the opportunities and threats that we've just had with a practical conversation on a recent election that we had on the continent, which was an election that we had in Malawi. A lot of us were able to follow that election. One of the things that did come out was the interaction of the EMB in Malawi with the question of technology. And it would be good for us just to hear from colleagues from MEC, whom we proudly worked with during that election through technical assistance by the African Union. But just to hear from MEC what the experience was in terms of using technology during that election, and perhaps give us pointers on whether or not some of the questions that we've been asking about regulations and opportunities and threat do apply from your recent experience with the 2025 elections in Malawi. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Is the clicker working or? Yeah, thank you so much. You know, now I've got a tough task now coming after the professor, the CEO of IBC, then the tech experts which are sitting here. Now I should come as 50th presenter. But the good thing is, I think they have done good part of my work. It will be like now I'll be doing the revision. Yeah, thank you so much. So basically, my presentation is on the contemporary use of the AI in Malawi by Malawi Electoral Commission. So all the previous presenters, I think they have agreed to say we needed to adopt AI in our electoral processes. And they have agreed to say to ensure transparency, efficiency, and trust in the democratic processes, AI should form part of the processes. Yeah, so if we are to use AI, we are saying we can use AI for voter registration and voter verification. That is if we implement a biometric voter registration system. That's the capturing of the fingerprints and also by facial images, whereby the AI can use those biometric features to do the deduplication and also to detect some fraudulent registration. And also, we are saying we can also use AI to help in the predictive analytics for resource allocation. Basically, what it means is we should give AI an access to our voter registration data that tells how geographically our nations have been divided. That's from national, regions, councils, constituencies, wards, and then specifically to polling stations. With that information, the AI will be able to allocate resources like the ballot papers and also staffing. And we are saying we can also use AI for tallying and also transmission of results. Now, if you can look at these three things, technically what we are saying is we should allow AI systems to have access to our elections data. And it has come so clear to say AI comes with cyber risks. And the CEO for IEBC provided some frameworks or guidelines as to how we can safely implement those, including probably separating the live environment for the election, and also we can have another environment on which AI models can interact with. But another aspect which hasn't been talked too much is about the communication and the engagement using the AI, because apart from the managing critical processes, which are voter registration, transfers, inspection, we also need to relate well with our stakeholders. How do we do that? We have to engage, we have to communicate, we have to pass the necessary information as far as our elections are concerned. Another part is about the research. AI also, it's a tool which you can use to do a research on the electoral technologies for elections and other resources for information. Okay, approved AI tools. At Malawi Electoral Commission, we use Copilot, which comes with Microsoft 365. I think you should not think too much, okay? The AI tools are the ones that you know. We have got Copilot, we have got ChatGPT, we have got Google Gemini, we have got Crowd, okay? And there is a report which came out, I think, this last month about Anthropic Crowd as a tool for AI that the Chinese hackers cheated the iCloud to hack about 30 big institutions and getting access to the databases of tech, financial, and other institutions, harvested accreditations, documentations. Now that's the risky part that comes with the AI. In the event it has been given access to our voter or election data or information. But we can use the same AI for actually to boost productivity, operations improvement, communications and explaining complex and long documents, planning and preparation, creation of visuals. What are these examples? For example, you have got a change in a legislation. And you know legislation is always that these are long documents. And most who are non-legal people, they feel lazy to go through such long documents. The same as the court judgments, the 100-something pages. All you want is specific information from that judgment. What are the rulings? What are the orders? So you can use the same AI tools to quickly analyze the documents. But you cannot also use the AI for decision making. You cannot allow AI to make a decision for you. Because we know, for example, generative AI, they learn from what people have fed them. And suppose if they have been fed with a long information, they will make a long decision for you. So we have to be very careful when we're using AI. And also another issue is integrating with the voting systems. As I've just given an example of a crowd AI tool which has been compromised. It can as well be compromised to interfere with the voting systems, manipulating the data, voter data records. You never know, even increasing additional voters into your database. And also the issues of high sensitive data. For example, a personal data. You don't have to expose it to AI. So as I said, AI can be used to analyze big documents, also media engagement, misinformation, disinformation, and also on research. So with Copilot, for example, you upload the document you want to analyze. And you can ask the questions like, ask the AI to give you a summary, for example, of a registration. It will give you a summary of that document. You can also ask an AI, okay, there's a change in legislation. It's the responsibility of the MBs to communicate to the stakeholders. So you can use AI to draft press releases for the change in the legislation. You can use the same AI to develop briefing documents or for question and answers. You can also use the same AI from the same document to design periodic social media campaigning materials. And also create social media posts for different platforms, be it Facebook, be it X, be it Thread, all these other social media. So you can ask the AI from that document to generate a specific content targeting a specific social media platforms. Also, you can use the same AI to create voter education materials from the same change in the legislation. So in so doing, it makes your work simple and more efficient in drafting of these documentations which are used to communicate to the stakeholders. For misinformation and disinformation, Malawi Electoral Commission subscribes to CSION. This is one of the giant institutions in public relations. And the CSION uses AI for media monitoring and advanced analytics. It tracks down how brands are measured across news, social media, and digital platforms. I can confess here that with the use of CSION, we are able to track so many misinformation and disinformation that was targeted towards Malawi Electoral Commission. More importantly, my chairperson has been a victim of misinformation. As she has got so many Facebook accounts which have been created by other people in her name, using her pictures, sometimes using her national IDs. So CSION has helped us to track such kind of information, and we have reported such kind of misinformation or disinformation to SET, which is one of the institutions in Malawi which tracks out some other things in order to bring them down. Next. Now on research, as a commission, we have used AI to identify new electoral technology. You know, when commission meets, they just come out with resolutions to say we want new technology to be used in 2025 general elections, from voter registration, inspection, transfers, results management, candidate management, and biometric identification. So they give us as technical people just a resolution, say this is a resolution, we want you as the head of IT to implement this resolution. So me and my team, we use the AI so much to study on the technologies which could make us comply with the resolution from the commission. With these few remarks, thank you so much for your listening.
Thank you, Stanlas. It's quite fascinating to hear how, in very recent experiences, there has been the use of technology and AI in our elections, and some of the results that we're already starting to see. Thank you, colleagues, for sharing all the experiences and your knowledge that you had on this topic. I'd like to take this opportunity just to invite our audience, the colleagues in the room, if there are any questions to our panelists. A lot of what we've touched on has been a continuation of the conversation we're having earlier in the morning. The chairperson of the South African Election Commission posed questions in the morning. And as I listened to colleagues on the panel speak, I kept reflecting on whether or not we're starting to answer some of those questions. And I'm hoping that we have been answering those questions. But we are opening the room to questions. If there are more questions, we've got the experts in the room. We have colleagues from Malawi who have practically engaged with AI in a recent election. So we have an opportunity to interrogate what they've submitted to us and hopefully learn from it. So we open this part of the session to questions. We've got one question at the end, another hand. We've got a second one and a third one. We'll take those three. We'll start in the corner.
Thank you, sir. My name is Pinit Mapepe from Lesotho. So I have listened to all our panelists, and my question is based on the deep fake, AI-generated deep fakes. Are there any a baseline detection system or agents that can be used by electoral bodies to detect any possibility of AI-generated deepfakes that are targeting voters and candidates. So do we have such tools that can be, you can suggest for our EMBs so that they can utilize them, so that we can curb those challenges when it comes to deepfakes? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael from University of Pretoria. My question goes to Stanlas, a very practical question. Did you ever face challenges like crashing of the tools you're using or hacking into your systems, and how did you resolve that? Because you've given us more of how you used it, but did you face practical challenges of hacking, crashing of your systems, and how did you respond in time?
Yeah. Okay. I will speak in French. L'interprète? Or I can, if the interpreter is not ready, I can ask in English directly. Okay, so I listen to all the speakers with a lot of attention. But if you listen, you hear the last question, the last two questions before my question, you will understand that there is a deep need. There is a deep need to know how to practically implement the solution of AI in electoral commission. So this is my question. I want all the speakers to focus on 4 points, I believe. I think is more important for all electoral commission is for, I can call them the layer. Layer 1, public information security. Layer 2, digital infrastructure and security. Layer 3, logistical and operational efficiency. And layer 4, voter information services and services. We want to know what kind of AI we have to apply on all 4 different layers. Because it's what is interesting, for example, the CEO that are here and the chairman who have to give the guidance to the CEO for implementation. So we want you to focus on those 4 layers clearly, and then people here can go and live here with a clear idea and how to implement those kind of solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it just reminded me of the earlier, the morning session we had today, where the emphasis was to say, let's now move away from the talk shows to practicals. And we're hoping that the panelists will have sort of responses that will move us away from just having these conversations for purposes of conversations to presenting practical solutions to what we need to do to deliver better elections as EMPs. So I'll invite Samson to respond first, and then we'll follow that order.
Well, thanks for those questions. So I may not respond to the questions in any particular order, because I took some notes. Let me just highlight a few things. The first point, and we always struggle when we engage with EMBs, and I hope that we don't leave here with the impression that what we are trying to do is to get you to adopt AI at all cost. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to expose you to the opportunities and the risks that it poses. We're not saying that you either AI or you die, because that's the language from the streets, and you hear this often. And vendors will come tell you that you must AI, and if you don't AI, you'll be left behind. That is partially true, but that's not the case. So I'll give a couple of recommendations. And I said this in Dakar a few weeks ago, and to the commissioners here. You know, the Bible says in Mark chapter 4, when Jesus was speaking, he said, a prophet, it's only in his home that a prophet is not valued. And so my recommendation to commissioners is please listen to your directors of ICT. One of the things that we have learned in this work is that often commissions and commissioners tend to listen to more voices outside the commission. And even when their directors of ICTs provide them with recommendations, they tend to value the recommendations that come from external actors. And to a large extent, it demobilizes and it discourages your directors of ICT. So my first recommendation is please try as much as possible listen to your directors of ICT, especially those ones that are very sort of competent. The second point, and I think there was a question that came up this morning about local production of tech, and just to tie to what my brother said there. Commissioners, we need AI sovereignty to be able to maximize AI and its potential. The digital infrastructure that is required to power artificial intelligence in Africa is very weak at the moment. And this is why on the continent, philanthropists and billionaires like Strive Masiawa from Zimbabwe is investing in building AI factories. Just 2 weeks ago, he mobilized, I think, over $150 billion or so, because he's building AI factories in 5 countries on the continent. That is how we claim our sovereignty. And tied to that, please, I beg you, commissioners, patronize local AI vendors. I beg you, patronize local AI vendors. Don't always look at companies in the West. Because the more you do that, you're sharing the local data that we have, and they become more powerful. And we're not supporting our own techies on the continent who are doing great work, where all these other companies are taking them away. So I plead with you by the mercies of God, please patronize local AI vendors. I beg you. The other point I'd really want to make with respect to the point in terms of election logistics and how AI can be used. EMBs can use AI. So my brother, who asked the question around logistics management, there are several data sets that can guide EMBs for how to deploy election materials to certain locations. I'm sure every EMB here knows the hard-to-reach areas in your countries. You have the data, you have the information. You can train an AI model using historical data, and I'm talking to my brother. You can get an AI model, you can train the model with historical data, and it can predict where there is a likelihood of challenges with deploying materials to those locations. You could look at things about environmental data. You can have a model where you infuse things like, environmental data related to rainfall or where you have hard-to-reach areas. There are several data sets that you can use. You can use AI to determine where you locate your polling unit or your polling stations. All of these are possibilities. However, no matter what you do, the human oversight is very, very important. So you don't have AI, locating polling stations in a shrine or at the center of a river. You always want to ensure there's human oversight, because those tools, those AI systems, they hallucinate. And that's why in one of the slides, and it was mentioned this morning, that AI is not fallible. To a large extent, it's not as intelligent as you think it is. Because in actual fact, it's really the data that you imbued on those systems that determines it. So in terms of that's a practical way you can leverage it, including things like cyber threat detection. I just wanted to say that when you think about ChatGPT, and just to bring me to the last point, data actually shows that ChatGPT needs about $700,000 on a daily basis to run its system. $700,000 on a daily basis for ChatGPT to run a system. That is money that does not come to Africa. That's money that goes elsewhere. And this is why we really want to encourage that you continue to support and promote some of the local AI systems. And there are a couple of them, from Kenya to Nigeria to South Africa to Senegal. There are just a lot of those tech guys that I think we should support. My brother talks about deepfake. The reason why I may not, maybe Matt might do that, I usually, in engaging EMBs, will refrain from making recommendations about those platforms. But maybe Matt can speak to, so you won't? No, we usually refrain from making those recommendations on grounds of principle. But there are tools, and we can direct you, perhaps, if you have. And I think they're practical tools, because Malawi just told us. I'm sure when Majan comes, he will tell you about the IFES-supported dashboard that was used to track disinformation in the Kenyan elections. But I would normally refrain from recommending any company, because I'm very biased when it comes to Africa.
Yes. Matt, do you want to come through and answer some of those questions before Stanless also responds?
Whenever I see Samson, I know I'm getting homework assignments. Okay, so these are wonderful questions. Thank you for asking them. Just a few responses. Your question regarding specific services for deepfake detection, it's a surprisingly complicated one, and it's also complicated because we talked about the feedback loop of sort of, is AI using you or are you using AI? There's a similar feedback loop of deepfakes and deepfake detection. So the deepfakes are constantly getting better, and therefore the detection keeps getting better. And then the deepfakes are trained to evade the detection. So it's a cat and mouse game, maybe the same mice I had up earlier. So the services rapidly change, and the ones that are good now, 6 months from now, may not be so good. So we'd be happy as IFES to simply talk with you a little bit and try to help you. Either we can do some quick research and make some recommendations that you can take a look at, or we can help advise if you're thinking about a tender to put out. I wholeheartedly endorse Samson's point about digital sovereignty for the continent and even within your countries, and supporting local tech ecosystems. Deepfake detection itself is difficult, but it can be done by a college student who's talented at the computer. So this is something where local startups are often the best ones if you can find the really talented folks, and where the cost of entry to the marketplace is not so high. So rather than making recommendations from the stage, and IFES doesn't endorse specific vendors in any case, I think that this specific problem is one where comparing notes with your peers, but also specifically looking at your local and continental tech marketplace, is actually a very, very good idea. The other thing that's true is the large technology platforms, including OpenAI, Meta, all of them, have their own capabilities that are built in, so you can often rely on their services rather than bringing the expense and the technical capacity inside of the EMB. So whenever you can outsource, that's also a good idea. I'm sorry, that I know that's not a totally satisfying answer, but I'd be happy to chat later. This question, I also very much appreciated the demand for practicality. And I lost your categories. It was cybersecurity, logistics, public engagement. What was the fourth one?
It was for layer 1, public information security.
Yeah.
Where you can use generative AI and machine learning. Mm-hmm. Layer 2, digital infrastructure and security. Mm-hmm. System expert and so on. layer 3, logistical and operational efficiency. And the last one was voter information and services.
Okay. I'll go very quickly, but again, I'm happy to chat more directly. One of the lines that was on my magic table that I'm so proud of was cybersecurity. Your cybersecurity vendors are all racing to do two things. One, increase the AI capacity in your firewall, your virus detection, your intrusion detection system, even just within the operating systems. They're increasing the AI capabilities today, and they're all racing to do the snake oil or the AI washing, adding the sticker on the outside of the box and charge you more for it. So the way that I categorized it, cybersecurity, very broad statement, is that it's low to moderate opportunity and high on snake oil and high on AI washing. The reality is that cybersecurity for defense exists, it's good, and it's continuously evolving, but it's similar to optical character recognition for biometrics, where it's just a continuous evolution of the existing approaches. We've all had antivirus software, hopefully, on our computers since, 1990. The basic approach hasn't changed. AI is just a new twist. So for that particular, out of your 4 layers, the thing to be aware of is that there's a lot of marketing happening, but also some innovation that will bring some gains. So not a lot is really required there. So in general, first, as Samson said, listen to your ICT manager. They're your best advisor. Don't listen to your vendors. Listen to your ICT manager. 2, I don't think you need to have a cybersecurity defense strategy that involves AI specifically. Certainly new AI-driven threats are worth paying attention to, but on defense, the vendors will take care of it themselves. I think Simpson somewhat spoke to the public safety layer, if I understood it correctly. It's similar to the question of polling place locations or modeling risk for where there could be violence or there could be logistical issues or service interruptions. This is a question of probably, I haven't seen good ready for market solutions yet. I've had some interesting conversations with a few who are thinking about it. This is probably a matter of training a custom AI model using your historic data. Again, this is something IFAS has a little bit of experience in similar problems. I'd be happy to talk with you about generally what that looks like, but I haven't seen good solutions in the marketplace yet. One thing you can look at doing is if you have security services that aren't likely to take too much of an interest in your operations, that are trusted advisors, public safety ministries, they may be able to advise you on their approach to these problems. You don't want to integrate with their solutions in most cases, but you may be able to learn some lessons in thinking through your own procurement, your own strategy to preserve the autonomy of your operation. Logistics, I think I would give you basically the same answer. Logistical efficiency. There's been some interesting work on, it's called industrial, well, no, it's basically like what militaries use to maintain supply lines, but applying that to the logistics of election day. So I'd be happy to talk with any of you about that, but similarly, it's a very nascent space. It's just not here yet. So what I wanted to say, I think I may have missed one of your layers, but we can chat afterwards. What I basically wanted to say is that primarily, you should not think that you need to have an AI strategy which is secondary or lays over the top of your technology strategy. Your technology strategy is your technology strategy. The question is, within any of the solutions or any of the vendors or any of the approaches that you're adopting, is anything changing with regards to AI that creates new risks or new opportunities? Cybersecurity is a good example. You don't need an AI cybersecurity strategy. You need a cybersecurity strategy, and then you need somebody to research and advise if there's any considerations related to AI. This is true across any part of your technology. A good example that I already brought up, a number of EMBs are starting to look at signature matching when they have mail-in ballots or when they have signatures for voter registration or for biometrics. In both of these cases, it's tempting to say, oh, we should just use AI and have an AI for biometrics or AI for signature matching. No. Signature matching is signature matching. Are there solutions that are more accurate that involve AI than other solutions? If so, those are the right solutions. The complementary side to this is knowing where there are hidden risks. Sovereignty is a risk. Privacy is a risk. The harvesting of data is a tale as old as time of resources being pulled out of this country. Information and personal data are the latest generation of this. So these are special AI-specific risks that you should ask about any of those solutions, whether it's cybersecurity, optical character recognition, biometrics, to make sure that you haven't created a new risk for your voters or for your organization. So happy to talk about any of these practicalities. I want to honor like the demand for pragmatism that both of you brought. It's always complicated, but the primary thing is we're near the top of the hype cycle right now, which is exactly when everybody thinks they need an AI strategy. 6 months or a year from now, we'll be saying, no, we need to AI-proof our strategies, right? So AI-proof your strategy. Don't throw your strategy to the side and create a separate new one. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I think specifically I'll go to a question which was dated at me about whether our system crashed. The simple answer is our system never crashed since we adopted them. We started using them from voter registration, results management, and biometric voter identification. Up to now, our system is live, it's okay, no experiences of crashing. Now, I want to take the opportunity from his entry point, wanted me to comment on the technology. It's true, you heard it. We had issues with our stakeholders about resistance to technology, thinking that once you implement technology, then rigging will happen there and then. So we had a battle with the political parties, mainly from opposition, to the extent that we go to the courts, and the courts gave their final judgment, I think 1 week before the elections. So what it meant was if the court had decided otherwise, then we couldn't have conducted elections, because it would have meant what we have done with the technology would have not been accepted by the judgment. So we have implemented a very robust system, resilient, which is working. For information, because of the issues that we normally face with our stakeholders, which actually makes, I think, most of the AMB's work difficult, is the issue of convincing the stakeholders. And to the extent that at Malawi Electoral Commission, whether it's expensive approach or not, but we have two different infrastructures. We have an infrastructure specifically for election management systems, and we have got a separate infrastructure specifically for corporate functions. So day-to-day operations that are managed on the corporate infrastructure, direct operations that are managed. So we did that deliberately to make sure that they should at least try to trust our systems. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the panelists. If you can give them a round of applause just to thank them. And thank you for your patience, particularly the next session. We've eaten into your time. But I was asked to ask a question. We're being consultative. As was just mentioned here, at times if you don't consult stakeholders, often in the administration of work, you run into problems. But I've been asked to consult. Do we go for a tea break now, and before we come back for the last session, or do we have that next session before we go for the tea break? Maybe by a show of hands, do we proceed to the next session now without the tea break, or we take a short break for tea and then we come back? Tyranny of the minority. So short break and then we come back. Okay. This short. Very short. Okay, thank you. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back so that we give the next panelists time to prepare. Thank you so much.
I hope everyone is back. Olafunto, please, could you help calling those who are still outside, yeah, to join? And while we are waiting for them to join us here, I would like to acknowledge the presence of a delegation from Mozambique and ECN Namibia. Please, if you can maybe stand for others to. Okay. And you have also on the tables evaluation forms, I think for a quick completion. You can do them right now or as we proceed with the last session. And also, I think another forms, the consent to use your picture on ECF-SADC or IDEA or other partners' social media. Okay, we can now start our session, and I would like to build on what Samsung just said. I beg you, please give their chance to local AI vendors. I think as we start our last panel, I would like also to request our honorable chairperson or CEO to give their chance to local expert. We have seen since this morning that some electoral commission have some strong and skilled expert that we can use to help others setting their process when we navigate through these challenging tools. With that said, I would like also to inform you that we were expecting to have 3 panelists, but we have only 2. The third one from TikTok did not manage to join. I don't know, it was because of their agenda, but we have realized one thing, and I would like to highlight it here. None of the big tech company is represented here while we are discussing these important topics. And they are the one providing us the tools we are trying to use in our electoral and political processes. But everything God does is good. His absence allows us more time for discussion. We know that our electoral processes and even our political processes are already weakened by political and institutional factors. And now they have to deal with a new reality, the artificial intelligence. It could be seen as an opportunity, but also as a threat. But AU is now becoming more and more important in our life. And most of the EMBs are no longer indifferent to its use. Some have already started. We have seen the case of 5 countries across the continent. Some others are still exploring the possibility to use it. But we are all on the move. And we are here with Mr. Brown Casaro, who is the Chief Executive Officer or Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And Marjan, I think he is known across the continent. I'm not saying that Brown is not known. You are all well known. COA from the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission of Kenya. For the purpose of time, I would like just to highlight a few questions and give you back the floor for you to answer when doing your presentation. How can EMBs and other electoral stakeholders reap the benefit of artificial intelligence while mitigating the negative effect? That is the first question I would like to put on the table. What reform should be undertaken to ensure better use of AI in electoral processes? We have seen since this morning that there is a lot of way to use AI. So you are here to let us know what reform should be undertaken for a better use of AI in our electoral processes. How can we deal with a tool that is constantly evolving? We are talking about money. If you have to invest on having AI tools and knowing that this tool is constantly evolving, what could be the cost for our electoral commission, for our countries? And in the context of digital divide, how can we ensure that the use of AI guarantees fairness and equality for voters? I think those are the key questions I have for now. And I would like to call my brother Brown to take the floor for his presentation. If you don't have presentation, maybe you can get the floor from your place. Do we have you have the presentation, so you can maybe stand, or you would like to do it from your place? We can look for. I think let me stand. Okay.
All protocols observed. I'm not Brown Kasaro. If he hears that, I'm going to get fired. I'm representing him. I'm equally from the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Brown Kasaro is the CEO of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Otherwise, thank you so much for putting me somewhere near him. We've been given questions, so it would be an adjustment to make. While flying, the plane is in the air, so it has to turn. Mid-air, so we'll see how it will turn. I'd made some prediction. I think Stanislas will agree with me, and even CEO Kenya will also agree with me. I said by the time we are presenting, our presentations will be done. And it's true. He actually admitted right here that his presentation was dry. From the time the chairperson in South Africa presented, he had done everything. We could have even said, okay, let's go back. We get to day 2. But anyway, let's see what we can do since we are where we are now. Looking at AI, most of the issues have been addressed. And I'm lucky. Okay, the presentation is showing. I wanted to say that I'm lucky that there's no presentation, so that I was going to say what I want to say. Unfortunately, I'm being checked. So let's see what we are going to do. Next. I present all the time, so I may not even talk about what is on the presentation, but please feel free to follow. That is what we would love to share in the context of what we've been asked here. Next slide. So this is general, but it was just meant for those of us who may think what we are not doing is, what we are doing currently is not AI. And I think the survey that was done by Samson, which was referring to, I'm aware that some of the EMBs admitted that they were not using AI because we did not know that what we were using was actually AI. So if at all you are using any of this, you are deploying AI. Next. Yeah. So even in the SADC region, there are some of the countries that are using AI. I recently attended a meeting just 2 days ago where oh, sorry, Professor, it's not you. Yeah, a professor was making a presentation in Zambia regarding AI and the cyber laws in Zambia. And then this person referred to a law called Information and Communications Act of 2021. There's no such law. There's no such law. Why am I saying this? I'm also making a presentation and I'm presenting before experts. So please, if I mention anything and I mention your country, please forgive me the way I forgive the professor. Next slide. Yeah. I've said this because I'm now mentioning countries. Yeah, South Africa, you have Toko, right? Yeah, which is some kind of chatbot. Yeah, according to what we came across. Then we also have Eswatini mentioned that Madagascar using AI, but unfortunately I did not see these countries mentioned on what Samson indicated. And probably the answer lies in what I said, that when the questionnaire came to us, we were answering and we did not know that what we were actually using was AI. But so Samson, after being exposed now, please bring back your questionnaire. I'm telling you, it will be populated. Yeah, most of the countries will be in green. After all these interactions, last year's annual general conference in Seychelles, we were exposed a little bit, and now we are being exposed. We know what AI is. So all of us will give you yes, 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 yes. Yeah, so it's going to change because we are now aware. Next. Yeah, so AI can be used in various aspects, and there was someone who was asking about the various layers, and they can be used in these parts of the electoral process. Next. Next. So in terms of this has already been mentioned by some of the presenters that were already here, and Samson avoided mentioning companies. Yeah, but Malawi is our neighbor. They mentioned the company, so those manners are also following Zambia. So a few companies will be mentioned. Yeah. Yeah. So I think someone mentioned about CEO of South Africa mentioned about the issues of speech to text. It's easy to come up with text or even translating into local languages. When I was at the airport, there's a Chinese who was arguing with someone at the airport in Zambia. And then I tried to translate what they were talking about. Then my daughter asked me, Daddy, how do you know? Then I just said, shh. I just put on an app to translate Chinese to English. And I said, this and that. So Daddy, that's what time you're in China, you knew Chinese. Shh. Yeah, so leave them like that. Let them be misled. Yeah. So there are such tools that can be used. Sometimes we use translators, but for those languages that are on the various AI platforms, we can verify. Now it's even cheaper because we are talking practical. It's cheaper for us to translate our materials in our languages. Next. Then also in public outreach, we can be able to know, because of the last point that you saw on the slide, if we use these AI tools to be able to predict voter turnout, we can also be able to predict which segment of our population may not turn out, for example, to come and register as voters or turn out to come and vote. So using those tools, we can be able to tailor our outreach messages and strategies to be able to reach out to those whom we have predicted that might be difficult to reach out to. Next. We'll talk about misinformation and disinformation. We'll talk about campaigns. This slide was talked about by Samson, but I can just elaborate when it comes to logistics. There's a relationship between logistics and delimitation, because during delimitation, that's the time we create our polling stations, our wards, our constituencies. So when you are planning for your delimitation and you have taken delimitation, then you capture the data and then you feed them into your AI tools. Then you can be able to come up with the distribution of materials, routing of distribution of materials, and also focusing on the usage of materials, because it's the result of the limitations and voter registration is going to give you the numbers that are supposed to be found in each polling station, the number of staff, and all the requirements at the smallest unit. So there's a relationship between your GIS tools, and then you feed your GIS tools with the delimitation data, and then you input that in your logistics system. Then you can be very efficient with your logistics planning. Next. I hope I'm answering your questions, sir. Okay. Next, campaign. Yeah. So in terms of campaigns, again, there are those tools that can be used. So now there's a midway between mentioning the tools and not mentioning them, because I'm mentioning them because they're a bit visible, and I'm not mentioning them because they're not very visible. So it's in between. Yeah. Now, we can be able to be proactive as EMBs, to be able to monitor what is happening in terms of campaigns. When we use some of these tools, they can be able to work in terms of giving us early warning. We have a number of early warning systems, like in Zambia, conflict management. We deploy early warning systems so that we can be able to know where instances can be able to happen. But these tools can go further to monitor what's happening on the social media platforms. We can speak in detail on the next slide. So in the next slide, we are talking about misinformation and disinformation. So what will happen is these tools are going to fact check the information that is being provided on social media and various platforms and even various networks. And they can be able to be segmented in such a way that we can be able to be proactive as the electoral management bodies. Next. So we can be able to come up with proactive measures. Now these considerations, next, they've already been mentioned when it comes to deploying AI. CEO, first chair, South Africa mentioned, CEO mentioned, these are the issues that we need to ensure we do. And I also used AI to predict what is going to happen when I present. I already predicted that part of my presentation would have been taken care of. We saw, if you can remember, we asked what is GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Yes, that I predicted correctly. Then someone mentioned data privacy. I predicted correctly that I might be relevant by the time I come here. Then we also talked about hallucinations. I think Samson referred to hallucinations by these AI tools. And hence, we do not need to remove human intervention. Next. Okay, this was already mentioned, infrastructure, capacity building in the staff. Yeah, because on capacity building, please build our capacity, because at some point we might be irrelevant as your staff. You need to build capacity in us. Next. Okay, thank you so much. So AI might swallow us. So please spare us from being swallowed. Let us swallow AI. Thank you very much.
What a funny presentation, huh? Thank you. I think it was helpful for all of us. Some have been maybe sleeping. Now we are all awake. Please, Mr. Marjan, can you? Yes, I think you must keep the standard. Huh?
Yeah, thank you very much. Allow me to ride on the established protocols. Let me give a disclaimer because I thought I'd given my presentation, but it would appear that it is not here, but I can assure you that you will get it at the end of this session, because I have it here with me. It's only that it cannot be projected there. There's been a lot of talk on the issues of regulations, the issues of threats and opportunities, and they were actually discussed in detail. What I want to do is that in the next few minutes is to look at the future we are designing for, and this is actually the context of the presentation that I want to make today, this evening. So what I note that is when election management bodies talk about artificial intelligence, the conversation as often starts with the tools. Like here, I could see people are asking, which tools can we be able to use? You're asking about the issue of automation, analytics, chatbots, prediction models, risk scanners, and the rest. But I think the real question is not which tools we are going to use. It's about shaping the experience we want to have in future about election management. So rather than focusing so much on the issue of which tool can we be able to use, because you're asking questions about logistics and the rest, and also other questions were very, very innocent in terms of whether we can work minus the artificial intelligence. Good questions, and I think probably with my small presentation, I'll be able to address some of these issues. So for IBC, our view is that the artificial intelligence should help shape future defined by 4 qualities. And I want to listen to these 4 qualities. One of the qualities which has been talked about is the issue of trust. So when you design an AI model, one of the things to take care of is actually the issue of trust. And why? Because AI should be able to enhance public confidence and not to erode it. When you talk about trust, we're talking about issues of transparency, we're talking about issues of accountability, and the issue of explainability, which has been talked about in length. And we are saying that this should be embedded from the start and not as an afterthought. And why this matters, it's because electoral processes rely heavily on public legitimacy. If there is no public legitimacy, then you are going to have a problem. And that's the reason why in your model, always make sure that the element of trust is actually incorporated. The second one is the issue of efficiency. And efficiency by design means to improve speed, to improve accuracy, and the operational capacity. And this matters because elections face immense pressure. We are talking about tight timelines, we are talking about strict procedures, and we are talking about high public scrutiny. And therefore, for me, the issue of efficiency is very, very key when designing any AI model. The third one is the issue of security. I think we've talked about security here. And why security? Security must be built into every layer of the AI system. And I think somebody here, one of the presenters, talked about the issue of data that needs to be secured, the issue of the infrastructure that needs to be secure, the issue of the application itself, the model that needs to be secured, and even the processes themselves that needs to be secured. And why security matters in the design of the application system in future? It matters because elections are targets for cyber attacks. The issue of misinformation, the issue of manipulation and sabotage and vulnerability can all be exploited. For this reason, there is a need to ensure that those vulnerabilities are not exploited by the threats. And the last one, the last pillar is actually on the inclusivity. And inclusivity, and I hope this explains the questions that we were given, whether we can have, because of the issue of the digital divide, is it possible to have AI model that can be able to close this gap? Inclusivity is also another factor that should be able to include in your AI model. And in inclusivity, we are talking about expanding access and participation and not to leave anyone behind. And this matters a lot because every citizen must be able to participate fully and confidently in any electoral process. So we are saying that if AI cannot responsibly, if AI cannot be able to strengthen these pillars, the 4 pillars, then basically it has no place in our elections. But if AI is used responsibly and strategically, then it can reinforce these 4 pillars and even scale them beyond that. So the second part that I want to share with you is the issue of the IEBC practical journey. And this is about the lessons from the regulations and the systems planning. So there are 3 concrete areas that as IEBC experience that may be relevant to SADC peers. And one of them is the issue of regulatory preparedness. I think we've talked about regulatory preparedness here. And we are saying that is regulatory preparedness must precede technological adoption. It is important that technology does not precede the regulation. If it is like that, then you are going to have problems. Kenya is currently reviewing its electoral legal reforms. And in this reform, we are prioritizing key things like clear definition of what forms of AI constitute electoral technology. He's talked about the fact that when people were asked to demonstrate whether they're using AI or not, some of them could not be able to identify it, yet they're actually using the same. The second part is actually the governance parameters. And here, we are talking about governance parameters for data use, the parameters for retention of data, and also issues of collaboration with other institutions. The third aspect is the issue of accountability structures for artificial intelligence vendors and third-party service providers. So what governance, what accountability structure are we going to have? Remember, we said that accountability is very, very important. Somebody said that AI is actually a black box. You cannot be able to see. But who develops it? Is it the developer? Who takes responsibility? Is it the developer? Is it the company that basically employs that developer? Or is it actually the user or the organization basically that has actually acquired or sourced that system? The other issue is the safeguards against algorithmic bias and opaque decision making. And this is very, very important because somebody says that even the AI can suffer from hallucination, but also it can be biased. Like, for example, the issue, we are using a biometric system for registration as well as identification. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So you will see that it was actually, the way it has been designed, the algorithm were based actually on somebody who is white. And when we actually bring it here and deploy it, you'll find that it's having difficulties in terms of identifying the black people. So it has to be customized. It has to be reconfigured to ensure that it works. I want to, because of time, already I'm being reminded that I've got 3 minutes. Yeah, so let me try and see if I can be able to cover as much content as possible. I would move to partnership, which is basically a new competency for election management bodies. One of the strongest lessons for Kenyan experience is that EMB cannot build AI future alone. You've heard that you need to work with several other entities. You need to work with the tech companies. You need to work with the regulators. And therefore, it's very, very important that we do not forget that. In our example, for example, we did work with a lot of partners. One of them was actually Meta. The other partner was actually IFES that we worked with in terms of using AI-powered tool for the purpose of sentiment analysis. It matters a lot because 50% of the discussions happening are actually happening in the digital media. And therefore, we need to know what is happening there in order to devise strategy for either voter education or even for dispelling certain fears that people have regarding AI when they are talking in the social media. So that is actually some of the partners that we had. We also had our media monitoring units working very, very closely with the Meta to flag and address harmful narratives. We actually use interactive chatbot for real-time voter assistance. You know, people are asking whether it's difficult to deploy interactive chatbot. It's very, very easy. All you need to do is to feed it with your constitution, your electoral laws, your policies, your manuals, and then you should be able to answer any question that is basically coming from there. So you can actually be able to use this area very, very quickly. You can also use it for the purpose of data analytics, for elimination of duplicate records. Somebody has talked about this, especially for the purpose of register preparation. But key caution when it comes to third parties is that there are three principles, lessons that we have learned. One is that do not outsource your core mandate. You know your core mandate is about management of elections. So you know what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to do registration. You are supposed to conduct the election. You are supposed to do voter education. You cannot relinquish this mandate. The second aspect is that every partnership must have governance built into the contract. Make sure that when you are signing the contract, these issues are basically covered in the contract. And the other issues about capacity building, knowledge transfer is very, very important. You need to have that knowledge so that in future you cannot be able to rely on the vendors. We are saying that technology that EMBs cannot explain is technology the EMB cannot be able to defend. You will be asked questions. And if your team cannot be able to explain, then you cannot be able to defend the questions that are going to be asked. So when I look at the future ahead is that how can AI transform electoral management? Yeah, so one of them is the area of enhanced electoral logistics. I think somebody have already explained here. You know, during election, you'll find that when you are actually taking materials from your warehouse to respective polling stations, sometimes they're supposed to follow a straight line in a route, but you'll find that probably the logistics partners are charging you twice. They are charging you like every time lorry moves from one point to the other, starts from the central point to another place. Yet actually it can carry materials, actually deliver it in one place, the second place, and the third place. So when you use actually artificial intelligence, it can be able to structure your actual logistics very, very well in terms of route optimization. It can also enable you to predict shortages and even to do staff load balancing. But of course also to focus voter turnouts. And we are saying that this future is not theoretical as I'm talking about, but because already there are companies that are not EMBs and they are actually using these kind of tools for the purpose of doing the same. So it's just a matter of retrofitting the same in our institutions. But the challenge is simply to adapt it to the environment with the clear controls. The other area is basically intelligent voter services. I want you to imagine a future whereby voters can interact with AI-powered multilingual assistants for registration information. You just ask the bot and basically gives you information, polling station details, and also any queries on regulations. I want to believe that have a situation in future whereby persons with disabilities can receive personalized digital tailored information for accessibility needs. Whether you are actually blind or whether you cannot be able to hear, you can get sign interpreters there. This all can be possible with AI. I want to believe a situation whereby citizens can self-serve verified information 24/7 every day, thus reducing long queues, call center congestions, and also misinformation exposures. These are the kinds of improvements they change the citizens wants to experience, not in 2050 or 2030, but you can be able to experience them in the next cycle of election, because some of them are actually just simple operational automations, and they don't have any risk as explained by Matt before. Modernizing electoral risk, I don't want to spend more time on this, but I think Matt has talked about this, the issue of risk detection, modeling, and also trend analysis. Let me summarize, because I'm told that I've got 1 more minute. So I want to give a roadmap for SADC EMBs, 5 actionable points. One is you must start with governance, not tools. Adopt ethical and regulatory frameworks before introducing tools. And 2 is to develop in-house capacity early. I like what Nigeria has done. They have identified this as an opportunity area. It also poses a strategic risk to the institution. They have actually come up with a unit to do that. So have an in-house a team and start from there. 3 is you need to build strategic, but not transaction partnership. Engage tech providers through agreements that ensure transparency, auditability, and accountability. 4 is to experiment with in low-risk areas first. Don't go for big things. Go for small things. Automate simple processes. Even, for example, training. Even recruitment. It's very easy to do these things. Somebody talked about generation of minutes. How many are doing this? You can start with simple low-risk areas. You don't need to go to big areas. And finally, is basically to institutional transparency to protect trust. So the future of elections will not be defined by technology alone. It will be defined by how well we govern technology, how we regulate it, how we partner around it, and how we ensure it strengthens rather than weakens the foundation of democratic choice. I thank you.
Thank you, Marjan. I think both panelists have given us concrete and practical example of how they have used AI in their electoral processes. We are now going to open the floor. It could be for question or for contribution, because we do have in the venue people who have also experience to share with others. But I would like to highlight that we are remain just with 7 minutes. Yeah, you know, I'm from Central Africa. In Central Africa, there is no democracy, you know. We are used just to impose. Okay, no, because we are behind time, and so would like to move on. Please, question or contribution? Oh, okay.
Obrigado, boa tarde. Meu nome é Eduardo Magalhães.
Please allow them to wear their set.
Sim. Sim, dizia, meu nome é Eduardo Magalhães, com a permissão do meu presidente, Dr. Manuel Pereira da Silva, vou colocar aqui duas questões. A primeira dirigida ao representante do Quênia. Antes, um breve comentário, é que a questão da aplicação da inteligência artificial nos processos eleitorais em África tem revelado um duplo efeito. Por um lado, ferramentas como sistemas de verificação biométrica, análise preditiva de irregularidades e monitorização em tempo real de campanhas têm sido mobilizadas para aumentar a transparência e a eficiência. Por outro lado, há relatos crescentes do uso de deepfakes, bots e campanhas de desinformação orquestradas por inteligência artificial, como de certeza absoluta terá acontecido no Quênia, onde esses conteúdos sintéticos visaram influenciar a opinião pública e, sobretudo, minar a confiança e a credibilidade nas instituições eleitorais. A questão é: de que forma é que a inteligência artificial está a ser utilizada para reforçar a integridade eleitoral ou, inversamente, para manipular processos democráticos em contextos africanos? Para o nosso irmão da Zâmbia, todos nós temos estado a acompanhar pelo menos foi assim na Seychelles o ano passado, as ameaças que incluem a polarização acentuada por algoritmos, um poder absoluto das plataformas digitais, que são empresas transnacionais, a erosão da soberania informativa e a instrumentalização da inteligência artificial por atores, às vezes que são nacionais, mas que se encontram a viver noutros países, os chamados desinformadores profissionais, para manipular narrativas, produzir notícias falsas e etc. Mas também surgem oportunidades promissoras. A democratização do acesso à informação política, através de assistentes virtuais multilingues, e o fortalecimento da participação cívica via plataformas digitais e até mesmo a inteligência artificial, inclusivas. Bom, a questão é, quais as ameaças emergentes e oportunidades estratégicas associadas à integração da inteligência artificial nos ciclos eleitorais africanos, num contexto de rápida transformação digital? Muito obrigado.
Okay, we can get more intervention. Please go on.
Forgive me for a layman's question, because I'm not too knowledgeable on this. I would like to know, to what extent should this AI be used, especially in schools, for scholars, students, at high schools, at universities, anywhere where there are scholars? Because now students will just write all their assignments. I'm not sure about examinations, but their assignments are now written through AI. Is that okay? Is it a privilege, an opportunity, or it's a risk?
Boa tarde, muito obrigado. Vocês todos ficam bonitos quando colocam na cabeça, por isso que eu vos solicito que peguem cabeças para poderem colocar a forma de poderem comunicar comigo como PALOP. Eu sou Fernando Mazanga, vice-presidente da Comissão Nacional de Eleições de Moçambique. Eu estou bastante entusiasmado com estas abordagens que estamos a ter aqui. A minha questão é, nós estamos a partir para a inteligência artificial. Estamos a partir de onde? Qual é a base de início para dizermos que consolidamos aqui e vamos avançar para ali? Se nós teríamos feito um estudo de verificarmos que o que está mal são os artefactos ou são os artefactos de Deus, que é o homem. Na maior parte das vezes, encontramos situações ultimamente que nos metem calafrios, que eu não vou poder mencionar em nenhum país, sob risco de levar algumas pedradas, mas há coisas que arrepiam que estão a acontecer. Será que é falta de inteligência artificial? Ou alguma coisa mais que nós precisamos, como organizações que tentamos criar condições para termos eleições livres, justas, transparentes, em tempo real? Muito obrigado.
Last question or contribution from participant before I give the floor. Okay. Dear panelists, please, you can take the floor. You can take the mic to answer the question. You can use the mic you have.
Thank you very much for the questions. I want to imagine I got the questions right, especially from the two participants. The first question, I think, was just looking at the issue of the negative aspects of the AI, and also the issue of the deep fakes, the issue of misinformation, and there is looking at the negative aspect part of it. And then the question was about in which ways does Kenya use AI to promote integrity of elections? I think that that's how I understood the question. I want to say that, first of all, the beginning of a credible election is to have a complete and accurate register of voter. If you don't have a complete and accurate register of voter, you stand to have a lot of problems. And therefore, this is an area that artificial intelligence can be used for the purpose of preparing the voter listing. As I said, the risk that we run is that we may have duplicate people appearing to vote, and this may erode the credibility of the election. So, for example, one area of ensuring that there is integrity in election is basically to ensure that your voter list is complete and accurate. And AI can be able to do that. But also we know that there are people who are there to peddle lies, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. The only way to be able to cope up with this is to be able to tell what is true. And if you cannot be able to tell truth in the fastest way possible, you are going to lag behind. For that reason, you want a tool that will enable you to match. As they speak negatively, you're also able to provide right information. The only way you can be able to do that is to have a tool that enables you to do that. Now, whether you're going to use artificial intelligence or any other tool, but certainly you need to cope up with that, because misinformation can be able to make your process to be illegitimate. It's about perceptions. That's why I said, for example, in Kenya, when you look at social media discourse, they are more or less talking about how election is stolen or what. So you need to be able to understand what is happening there. What are they talking about? Can you be able to come up with the strategies to ensure that you are able to dispel these rumors or lies? This is where technology will be able to help you. And there are also other areas. For example, in 2022, in general elections for our country, we noticed that the youth did not participate as expected. And now we were using the artificial intelligence for the purpose of identification and also for the purpose of voter registration. We know we are supposed to be protecting the what we refer to as concealing of the information in terms of who voted for what. But when you look at people who have been identified, you can be able to link it with the register of voter. You won't know whom they voted for, but you will know actually where they voted, which age group and which there is. So with analysis of that information, using AI, you can be able to know, for example, youth participated more in these areas. They did not participate more in certain areas. And therefore, you can be able to come up with a strategy that will enable you now to tackle those specific areas. You cannot be able to do it with your naked eyes. If you are talking about a voter listing of South Africa is, I think, having about 27 million, if I'm not wrong. Kenya last time we used 22 million. Others, 67 million. You cannot be able to use your mind and your eyes to do this. You definitely need technology to enable you to address this. And therefore, that's why I'm saying, whichever tool you are going to use, whether actually it is AI related or not, you need it to help you to be able to manage these processes. And also, like the law in our country requires, for example, let me take Kenya as an example. In Kenya, all SIM cards that were used for the purpose of elections were given specifically for the purpose of election. I'm talking about numberings. We are given numbering, prefaces, and the rest. Were given specifically for the purpose of election. No citizen could actually be able to have it. Two, all the devices that were used were actually whitelisted. You know, you can buy more than what you need for the purpose of election. But now the ones that are going to be used for the purpose of election must be whitelisted. The rest are going to be blacklisted. and you can actually be able to tell the artificial intelligence, these are the tools, these are the kits that will be used for the purpose of identification. The other thing is that there must be polling station fixed. So if you use these tools to tell the artificial intelligence that accept only form that meets this criteria, it will basically be able to pick. And any other form that does not meet that criteria will not be able to be picked and be posted in the public portal. So you can be able to use this for the purpose of actually improving integrity. And like I said, you don't need to go for bigger things. Start in a smaller way, and you'll be able to achieve your objectives at the end of the day. There was a question of what extent should AI be used in schools. What I know is that knowledge is power. The only way to reduce the digital divide is to train people to understand what AI can do and what threats basically come with it. And therefore, I want to look at what we refer to as media and information literacy. We need to train our citizens to understand the use of artificial intelligence, positively as well as negatively, so that they can be able to discern. Because if you have this knowledge, you can be able to tell very quickly, this is a lie, and this is basically true. You know the positive use of AI, and you know the negative use of AI. So my take is that there is no hard and fast rule in terms of saying which one should be able to go. But I want to believe that you need to open their minds so they can be able to understand this technology and be able to use it, because it's not going to go away. I know Matt talked about we are actually in the DAO. Almost we are going to be in the DAO in 1 year, where we'll actually be confused because we are up there, now we are going down, and then after that we are going to go up. It's high time that we expose our children to understand, and not just children alone, because nowadays also democracy starts with the children at grassroots level. You must teach them about elections. You must teach them about how artificial intelligence can be able to use for the purpose of, I know you talked about issues of threats like cheating. People are using the AI to generate their account. It is making their life easy, because nowadays you can just ask for, and even plus references, you'll just very quickly pick for you. But you can also be able to just check and see whether those references actually make sense or not. There are rules actually in university and colleges about plagiarism. I know the lecturers also, they know how to go about identifying something that is original and something that is not. So I think it will not be fair to say that our children should not actually be trained on this. I'm not sure I've answered that correctly, but this is just my thought in terms of what basically goes there. And then, yes, the other one was about we are going to AI. Where are we coming from? I think the issue is where are we? We are going to AI. We are living from where? And what is the basis for that? It's a very tough question, my brother. And I want to say this, that the changes in technology, the dynamism in technology is the currency at the moment. And therefore, if you cannot be able to match, you'll be left behind. Yes, and I want to agree with what Samuel said, that yes, you can choose not to use artificial intelligence, but you must be aware of the dangers. We are coming from a situation whereby we are used to coming up with the voter listing manually, and probably use rudimentary systems like probably even Excel. In a country with a small number of population, it's very easy to do that, because it's very easy to also to manipulate at the same. But in situations whereby we have got large voters, we've got citizens who are demanding for right information, I don't think you are going to remain with the tools that we are using. And therefore, the question is not about heavens coming with a new application. I think it's about recognizing that with the situation that we have currently, people demanding for election administration that is performing according to the expectations. We are having situations whereby there are a growing number of voters. We are having situations whereby there are lies being peddled about what you are doing, and when you know actually it's not true, you want to dispel those rumors. I think that will just force you, whether you want it or not. So mine is just to, and probably to repeat what Samuel said, is that look at it from a pragmatic point of view. Try and do what you can be able to do. There are some things that you can be able to do very quickly, and there are some things you cannot be able to do. Remember, they are also resource intensive. I wish the tech guys were here to tell us what is the cost of a small application that you can be able to do. Like for example, for us, Kenya, we were beneficiaries of some sort of grants, maybe, I don't know. We were given some, like IFES, they donated to us. It was actually a pilot project. Meta, they were willing. Nowadays, they are not there. So you can see the investment also in AI is also extremely large. But also note that when you invest in AI and you are also using other technologies, your citizens are also going to take you to task to explain additional costs. So you need to actually have a trade-off and balance between the same. I thank you.
Thank you, Marjan. I don't know if the second panelist. Yeah, Marjan has answered all the question, so nothing much from. Okay, I think it is time for us to close this session. We are planning to postpone to tomorrow the last session of the day, the session on the summary of key issues. Or you would like to continue? Okay, so thank you for your participation to this last session of the day. I'm giving the floor back to Hilda for some final announcement for tomorrow. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think I can do the announcements from here, if I'm allowed, Chair. May I? Thank you. A few announcements for tomorrow. The pickup time, like today, is 8:30. Pickup time from Hilton. Most of our delegates stay at Hilton, 8:30 tomorrow, so that we start at 9 for the annual general conference. 9. Remember, the annual general conference has 2 parts. The first part is where we interact with our international partners. The second part is where we have our closed meeting as EMBs. A few reminders. We are advised to bring our meeting packs from your bags. Others are going to be using a meeting link. Others are using hard copies, depending on where we are with AI, I think. The program is also in your bags. Please bring the program tomorrow or the agenda. To prepare for this meeting, we are going to have a brief planning meeting, and we request Angola, we are going to have a brief planning meeting, and this will be attended by the President, Angola, Vice President, DRC, Executive Committee Chairperson, South Africa, Vice Exco Chair, Lesotho, CEO South Africa as a moderator for tomorrow's meeting, and a rep from EBC as the host commission. So we'll meet briefly in this room just to finalize preps for tomorrow. Thank you very much. Yes, here in this room, before we go back to the hotel. Pardon? No, the brief meeting is now for the leadership, not everyone, only the leadership.
Yes, for the chair. Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening.